All right, I'm here with Steffen Hedebrandt, the co-founder and CMO at Dreamdata. Dreamdata is a B2B attribution platform. You guys are 60 people with offices in Copenhagen and New York. You raised a Series A 2.5 years ago. And you're very prolific on LinkedIn, but also a bunch of your team members, Laura, is very active on LinkedIn, who I've had on the show before. So I definitely wanted to have you on. Anything you want to share, one or two sentences about Dreamdata, and then we can jump into all the good stuff, go to market, founder-led marketing, etc.
Yeah, excited to be here, Finn, and I can definitely hear your German heritage when pronouncing the name Steffen. But I'm really happy to be here, Finn, and I've watched a lot of video clips from you on LinkedIn, so happy to be part of those. Maybe the only thing to add to the presentation of Dreamdata is that we actually regard ourselves nowadays as a B2B activation and attribution platform. The reason for that is that first of all, the old positioning kind of fitted the product we had, let's say 2 years ago, and the product we set out to solve. And the activation part is actually looking towards trying to, if you think about attribution is that discipline of understanding what works. Activation is the component of using that information about what works in other systems. So whether that's like triggering notifications to the sales team or orchestrating ads on different platforms, customer journey insights that you bring along with you when you're on LinkedIn or in your CRM system and stuff like that. So our big focus nowadays is kind of attribution is kind of checked off, and activation is let's put it in the hands where it's needed all around the go-to-market systems.
Yeah, so actioning the insights and the data that you're collecting.
Exactly.
Love it. Okay, cool. Now, you sent me an article about kind of your social selling journey on LinkedIn. Can you give the short recap of why you guys started on LinkedIn, how it started, and then maybe how it's going right now?
Yes, and so I know you talk a lot about founder-led marketing, but in the case of Dreamdata, you can say that it was kind of a founder-led initiative, but the success of it has been due to it becoming a team effort in our, particularly our commercial team. There's a great starting story for this back when we were kind of, let's say 10 people or something like that. Laura, which you mentioned before, you hear this thing about, oh, you should post on LinkedIn and, okay, let's try and do it. And can we even attribute it and all this crap? But then one day Laura did a post because we kind of decided, let's try a little bit. And then Chris Walker steps into the comment field of Laura's post saying, something like attribution is shite or something like that. That he did a lot.
Let me share my screen to pull up this original post, which is now, I think it's from 2021, right? It's
something like that.
4 years ago.
Chris doesn't do it anymore, but
yeah.
Here's he brought that post, along, right? Like an I don't know. The algorithm was just when Chris stepped in, our post would just blow up. But we were a fairly small company back in 2021. And me having been around in marketing for a while at that point, kind of what I could observe here is that we did not do any other activity this day, but we had never had as many visitors on our website, and we had like a record high of form submits on our website that day, demo calls, etc., that got booked.
Yeah,
like look at that post there, 220 likes.
That's insane.
The algorithm
almost ratioed Laura. Laura's post got like 380 likes, and Chris Walker's comment alone got 220 likes. Yeah, that's insane.
I think that's kind of when you get some experience with growth. We're not doing exact science here. We need to see the 0 to 1. And I could see the 0 to 1 when I observed Laura's post and the impact it had.
Right.
So that
you can see here the spike in website visitors on the same day she posted, and then a spike in MQLs you generated on that same day too.
It was completely epic. But what we then decided to do from there was to say, okay, there's something here. What do we do to kind of operationalize it? And what we did back then was to say, I think that post was in the end of Q1. So we decided to say, let's for Q2 try to do a team effort here where, as I recall it, I think we just said, let's try to get 300,000 impressions in Q2. And I think we hit just around
520.
You had the 520,000 impressions. And that kind of has kind of continued to be kind of the, let's say, the core of our social efforts, that it's something we do together and it's something we do for fun. So that team competition also ended up with like a team dinner where we went out and got drunk and had a great time out. But we kind of led it to kind of, okay, let's create a channel on Slack where we can share the posts. If somebody gets a comment or if somebody sees something exciting, share it in that channel so we can kind of support each other. And ever since then, it's always been about the team effort here from us, because is posting on LinkedIn a marketing effort? Yeah, it probably is. But like Laura is in sales and she's been posting almost every day for 2 or 3 years now. And she's a huge part in the awareness that is being created about Dreamdata. But it's not just Laura. MC, who just moved out of Dreamdata to what's it called now? Sassy. She had went from like 2,000 to 12,000 or 15,000 followers or something like that. So a lot of our employees have really, really, really contributed strongly to it. And so much that when we do have kind of real proper product launches we want to do, in our little bubble, the B2B marketing bubble on LinkedIn, we can do like we have a good circumstances at least to do like a takeover day whenever we really want to go big.
Yeah.
So it started with this kind of that 0 to 1 post where you see, holy moly, this is effective if we do it well. And then we took that to become like a team effort that has really been like a huge part of generating awareness about our company.
Yeah. So just to recap, you had one of your employees, Laura Erdem, who works in sales. She put out a random LinkedIn post. It went viral, got like 40,000 impressions. Chris Walker posted on it. You saw the spike in website visitors and MQLs. That was like, okay, something's working here. Let's gamify this. So you got the team together. You said, let's try to hit 300,000 impressions in the next quarter all together. If we hit this goal, we're going to go out, have a dinner, have a good time. You hit that goal. Do you still have some sort of gamified experience today where you track it, you try to beat your record quarter over quarter, or is it now just kind of like part of the flow? Everyone kind of does it in their own kind of way. How is it managed?
It is more like that, Finn, that people kind of more do it a bit by themselves now. I think there's probably a few reasons why. Obviously, as a marketer, you wanted to come on every day, you gotta post.
Yeah.
But I think part of the reasons why it's become like a team success is that there's been no policing, except if somebody shared some PII data that you shouldn't have shared in a screenshot. But then you take it down, get rid of it. But besides that, there's no policing, and people have really been offered complete freedom to post what they like, which I think you need to do if it is to be something that is fun and not kind of a very boring corporate, hey, we just released this press release, go read this press release. And nobody wants that. It has to be something that is fun and motivating. And then I think people can also, at least some of the people can also see that I'm actually building an asset here with my LinkedIn profile that I can benefit from for years and years to come. Like Laura will never have to look for a job again, because she went from like 2,000 connections to now she's closing in on 40,000, and 90% of them are B2B go-to-market people. So, so she's good. She's set for the next.
I have a question on that later, but I guess if a CMO is listening to this and they want to do this, they want to do some kind of employee advocacy thought leadership program, what have you learned about how to enable people, how to incentivize people? Can you make people do this if they initially don't want to do this? Like, what's the right way to get more people to do this and do it well?
Yeah,
right?
I'm speaking within the limits of like a company with 50 employees, and I've not seen like the corporate side of it. But I would say, I think like as a leader, walk the walk. If you don't post, you can't expect anybody else to post it. And I think it is good to do some kind of sprints or competitions, because you know how the social platforms work with all their all the mechanics built into them. So if you get employees into a run, then all of these sparks and endorphins and stuff like that starts to kick in, and people can see, oh, it's actually real people that responds to me. But I think you do need that, let's say, yearly or bi-yearly kind of competition to make sure that the engagement remains. We've also been blessed, I would say, by always having a strong focus on producing content. So we've always had kind of new stuff coming out once or twice a week on the blog. that they can kind of fetch stuff from. And then we've also done like voluntarily based team trainings of where we kind of sat down and showed, this is what I do, this is what I do. Also, a culture doesn't come out of nowhere, and it takes practicing what you preach and like showcasing this worked, this didn't work.
Yeah.
We have a product that lends itself to taking screenshots, so it's also fairly easy to like catch a customer journey and then post that and talk about it. For example, so our salespeople, we're telling them every time you win a deal, just go to Dreamdata, catch the screenshot of the deal, and tell the story about how you won the deal. So giving them very practical, like low effort things that they can do, and those screenshots always like generate this classical B2B customer journey discussion. Oh, where did the deal come from? Oh, and you couldn't attribute this, but you could this and that. And yeah, I think make it fun and motivating, and like walk the walk in front of the employees.
Do you think it makes sense to add some sort of incentive where either, I don't know, if you hit a certain impression number, you get a bonus, or you get, I mean, you did this with a kind of dinner out, but this is more like a team, like let's do this once, or even, I don't know, commission, where if in self-reported attribution someone says, I found you through Laura's LinkedIn, that Laura gets some percentage of, like, do you think that makes sense, or it's just not the right approach?
I mean, it's hard to combat the history of the world of the earth that incentives always work. So I mean, for our sales team, when they started out, it was either social selling or it was doing ice cold phone calls, and you could kind of pick between which one do you want.
Right.
But I think also I could easily see something like, if you had to kind of strongly enforce it, that you have to do 2 posts a week. If you do 2 posts a week, you get whatever economic bonus paid out. And once it's about getting that 0 to 1, and once it will kind of do its own routes, because social media is so crazy at doing endorphins and stuff like that. But I could easily see incentivizing people to social sell. And you can also, if you dig beneath that, you could also say, all the awareness that we generate organically, we don't have to go out and pay euros or dollars for afterwards in terms of generating that awareness that we create organically.
Yeah. And I would add that, and feel free to disagree. The only times I've seen this work with employee advocacy is if the employees understand and agree that they are self-interested in doing that, either because they're a seller and they can see that doing this helps them sell more, win more, have a shorter sales cycle, or career development, where they can see by building their brand, they actually get more opportunities. Maybe they can go speak, they will never have to search for another job. If it's purely just, you should do this because we as the company want you to do this so that we can grow revenue, it's not sustainable.
No, I think you're right, Finn, that each individual needs to kind of understand, find a rationale for why doing it. If I were a salesperson, I would also think, for example, when we have a product release, yes, the product release probably gets in front of those in your sales pipeline right now, but it also gets in front of those prospects that ended with a no decision last quarter. But now they see, hey, there's actually this feature that we talked about, or this new exciting feature I actually want to talk about. So you're constantly planting the next seeds that you want to harvest, besides the ones that are currently in your process. And I think a lot of salespeople understand that.
Yep. To recap a couple things that you mentioned on how to do this employee advocacy. Number one, walk the walk. So the founder, the CEO, or someone else on the team needs to be doing this actively. Sprints competition definitely helps, setting some goal and then attaching some reward to it. You mentioned no rules, so people can kind of post what they want to post. There's not these super hard guardrails around what you're allowed to say and whatnot. People need to see the self-interested motivation in this, either for the career development, etc. You have constantly new stuff on the blog, resources that people can use, share. So it's like fodder for the content. And then you also do internal team trainings, I'm assuming hosted by you or by Laura, other people who are already successful with this, sharing what's working for them, what's not, etc.
I mean, maybe to add to that, Finn, is that yes, you can decide what you post yourself, but if you only post memes, and nothing about what your product does, it's very rare that the attention turns into pipeline and revenue. So it's kind of, you can do a lot of fun stuff that helps, build your profile and give you reach.
Yeah.
But once in a while, you need to go straight to the bullseye with, this is what our product does. This is the latest feature.
Yeah.
We're releasing this thing, because then people sneak into your DM afterwards and say, hey, actually, the thing you posted here, can you show me a bit more of it? So you can't just be about reach. It also has to be within kind of the umbrella of what your product does.
If you were talking to a CMO and let's say, B2B SaaS, 50 people, mid-market, ACV, and they wanted to do this either founder-led, so they want to build their founders, their CEO's brand, or a complete employee advocacy thought leadership program, how would you advise them on how to set a timeline and a goal for this project? Because obviously, or program campaign, because obviously this ties into attribution, posting organic content, you can't perfectly attribute it. Like, what should you be looking at and over what timeline to verify whether you should keep going, kill it, double down?
Yeah. I think this is one of the, you probably see that as well, Finn. This is kind of one of the hard arguments to get away with. A couple of things. So, like in Q1, we just released a new benchmark report that, amongst others, contains the average customer journey length in B2B, which was 211 days, which is massive. Which means, like, as we're speaking here in May, like the clock's running out for people who've never heard about you to buy your product this year. Of course, that's an average, and there's all sorts of non-science things about it, but it's real data, it's real averages. So B2B is going to take a long time. That's number one. But and then social media posting like this doesn't lend itself as easily to attribute as other disciplines. So a couple of things that I at least think about is, one, you need to establish like a bank of qualitative evidence that this is nice. Like every time you get comments, likes, engagement from ICPs to your companies on your post, or not every time, but a lot of times where you get these, make sure to take the screenshots to save in some kind of folder. Whenever you have like best selling posts where like they go and get a lot of impressions, make sure that the whole company sees them, because then they start to get a feel of that when it's not just for fun, we're actually doing a post here and it actually gets in front of a lot of different people. And then I would say maybe the last thing is to also to understand that this is, accept that this is when you measure social selling, what you mostly get is leading metrics. So that is kind of, how many people viewed this post? How many people viewed this post? It's not about, I posted and then somebody bought, because that link is just going to be very, very hard to prove. You can, of course, there's courses you can go down to try to amplify the importance, as you said yourself, self-reported attribution, where people write that I saw you on LinkedIn. If you're recording your calls, it might get mentioned as well. But in general, I would say, look at your social selling efforts as kind of growing awareness that will translate to business, and make sure that the audience of this awareness are exactly the people that you want to have as customers in your business. Because you have this saying of, I think LinkedIn pushes the 95-5 rule. So let's say you have 10,000 accounts that you're targeting. At any given time, only 5% of these accounts, which would be 500 accounts, would actually be in market right now. So there's also a limit to how many of those will show up at your doorstep right now, because what you do is just not a project for them right now. How am I doing on this, Finn? You must be in these arguments or discussions frequently.
No, I love it. I think the problem often becomes, especially as you go to bigger companies, like people understand the kind of logic and the common sense around, clearly we're building awareness because we're getting impressions, and then you can verify that we're getting impressions from the right people because you can see who's liking and commenting, etc., and you can see whether or not these people are ICPs. But then obviously the link to, oh, this deal was generated because of this thing, that's where it gets tricky. And so I think you do need to have a mentality at a company where you can stomach that, where you can say, yes, this deal was created probably because of a bunch of things.
Yeah. Actually, something I was thinking just as you started speaking is that also it's not just a hindsight evaluation you should do. Nowadays, I think I have 26,000 followers on LinkedIn. Laura has almost 40,000. So yes, we impacted the past, but now we have a media. Laura has a media that can reach 40,000 GTM people. I have a media that can reach 26,000 GTM people. So when we do new product, this can be circulated to these free of charge. And yes, it had some impact in the past, but every day we're stacking more and more audience together. So the impact is also going to grow even more.
Yeah, I think, and I think there's also a lesson in kind of patience here, because we talked about the journey of how you guys got started, and this kicked off in 2021. So this is now 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You guys are still posting. You have 26,000 followers, which is a lot to some people, but there are some people who blew up with a lot more followers, right? Your
I think
last post,
my profile is tiny to compare to where I wanted to be.
Mine too, right? And so, and your most recent post from 2 days ago got 12 likes, and this is not a criticism, right? Because this is not a criticism. This is very important, because I see this all the time, and I think again, this is where mindset comes in. And I think part of the reason why you guys are actually winning and successful with it is because you're okay with that. Many teams look at that and they're like, I got 12 likes. I've been doing this for 3 months. I'm spending time every day. It's clearly not working or not enough. I should stop doing this. Well, you guys understand that this is it's a long-term game, that you have to keep showing up. And yes, sometimes you get 12 likes and sometimes you get 400 likes and you reach 50,000 people with one post.
I think about it as a lottery, and it's there's so many things, there's so many reasons why the algorithm won't pick your post up today, but you can't control it. The only thing you can control is the effort you put in, and as you said, by showing up, preferably most work days, at least giving it a shot. But that has also led me to say to myself that I'm not allowed to invest more than 15 minutes in a post, because I can spend 4 hours and it might tank completely, and I can spend 10 minutes and it might blow up. So I have a very controlled focus on don't overinvest in it either, because there's no guarantee that it's going to turn out as a viral B2B success.
Interesting. I think this is probably one of our points of disagreement, but I love it.
Say more.
I think I agree with you that you cannot control it, but you also said the only thing you can control is the input of the quality of insight. And I do think spending 2 or 3 hours on one post, if you properly spend that time actually thinking something through and researching and pulling up data and making an argument and really structuring it, you increase the quality of the insight. And now that post might not do well, but I think you're increasing the likelihood that it will do well. And I think people like Gal Aga, I don't know if you follow him, are kind of the case in point on this, where, he's growing by 5,000 followers a month right now. And he's transparent about spending 2 to 3 hours per post.
You're absolutely right, Finn. I was thinking about the two fledged PMM guys, Rob and Anthony as well, and they clearly invest a lot of time in it, but most of their posts also then take off. So I should have said, for me, it works constraining me to 15 minutes per post, roughly. Yeah. And for others, they hit a niche where the niche really appreciates that you clearly have invested a lot more time than just 15 minutes.
I think just to go deeper on this, because this is a pattern that I see more and more, I do feel like the way forward, as LinkedIn is becoming more and more saturated and more people are doing it, and more legit people, used to be that it's just a bunch of random coaches and consultants and freelancers are posting. Now there's a lot of CEOs and founders of legit companies putting out content, real thought leaders, where I think about it as there's a scale from 0 to 10 in terms of content quality, right? And even though that's kind of subjective, you can think about it as a 0 is just noise, while a 10 is a complete solution to a big burning problem that your ICPs have, and it's non-obvious, and it's providing lots of new additional information that weren't previously privy to, it is quite easy for a person like you, who is a founder, who's been running a company for many years, who's in this space for many years, to write, let's say, a 7 out of 10 post in
Yeah,
just 10 minutes.
I would agree. It's very
But
much a
it's a power
muscle that
law.
you need to train.
And I think it's becoming more and more, especially with the algorithm being less follower based and more kind of topic. It's becoming more of TikTok, where you can post something and even with only 500 followers go viral. That didn't used to be the case in this way, where it's becoming more and more a winner take all effect, where if you post about something and it's a 7 out of 10 post, and someone else posts about the similar or same topic and it's a 9 out of 10 post, you might get 1,000 impressions and the other person gets 1,000,000 impressions, just because it's a winner take all effect. So I do believe, as it's becoming more saturated, it will become more and more important to have a quality post. And again, quality is subjective, but it's almost like insight density, right? Like, for the amount of words that are read, how many new things did I learn that I wasn't previously aware of, right? And if you have a bunch of competitors all doing that, and they're all sitting down for 15 minutes writing up something, and they're probably also an expert at this point because they've been running a company and they're a CEO and they're doing things in the space. Someone else who just spends that additional hour to like pull up some data, do some research, properly structure that argument, maybe talk to a colleague or two and pull in additional third party, things on this post, they might just monopolize all the attention.
Yeah, I agree, Finn. I agree. It's an
I'm curious to get your take.
It's a fantastic agent or agent. It's a fantastic opportunity, LinkedIn.
So I'm curious to hear your take on risk of, let's say, employees doing this too successfully, almost. Where, I mean, we talked about Laura. She has almost 40,000 followers. She could leave next week and, I don't know, go to Hockey Stack.
Yeah.
And bring her 40,000 followers and all the trust and credibility and authority that she built to that company. Do you worry about that? Is it just kind of the cost that you have to deal with? Like, how do you think about that as a founder, where obviously your audience is directly attached to the company?
Yeah, first of all, she wouldn't go to a company that lies and behaves like they do. But in general, we've always really strongly believed that, you're kind of custodians of your employees, and they will be here for a certain amount of time. And the only thing we control is that we treat them well, that we offer them perspectives in their careers, that they get rewarded when they perform, that they develop themselves, that they get opportunities. And like Laura gets all sorts of opportunities all the time. So like, we're just thankful that she still trusts us to treat her well, and as a good place for her to develop professionally. And I'm sure the day will come where she moves on, but that's life. And but then she put in a top tier effort for us while she was here.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of growth tactics. They work until they don't work anymore. I don't see LinkedIn stopping working anytime right now, but stick around growth long enough and you'd see kind of everything works for a period and then it stops, and then you need to find the next thing that works. But at the core of it's about treat people well. And if they like, we just had one employee come back here after a 10-year 6 months at another company, and I believe really just we need to establish a place that is, the world might be going sideways, but we can control how we behave inside our little ecosystem here at Dreamdata.
Yeah. What's your sense on this kind of every tactic will eventually not work anymore? What's your sense on where we are with this thought leadership, LinkedIn, founder-led content, employee advocacy thing?
It's a really good question, Finn, and maybe just to bring people along the way. I'm old enough to have seen keywords inside of Google Analytics, so you could see which keywords drove traffic into Google Analytics. I've done Facebook ads back when there was no competition and no GDPR, so that was fantastic. And so there's so many marketing disciplines that, it works until it doesn't work anymore. We've definitely been in a honeymoon on LinkedIn. I think what we're seeing now is that definitely there's more competition than ever because people tell each other. People like you tell people it's great to do this. So the competition of content creating on LinkedIn is definitely going up. I don't see a point yet where it's, as you said yourself, it's not impossible to break through the noise and to grind and to achieve something. I think what you see with LinkedIn also is that what they are strategically doing smarter than what Facebook did. Like Facebook the feed was all pay to play, and you don't get any reach with your social profiles, and that practically killed the Facebook feed from like being a place where you study what your friends are doing. LinkedIn, on the other side, they make you pay for running ads, but the posts you do organically, if you do it as a person, can go wildly organic. So the algorithm is incentivizing you to continue posting as an individual, whereas posting as a company doesn't really take you many places.
Yeah. You went from, at least LinkedIn says, you went from CRO to CMO.
Yeah.
What was the biggest change? Anything what was the biggest things you had to learn or unlearn, or what was the reason?
It was when we started Dreamdata, it was like Lars, Ole, and I. Ole, he used to be like the CTO at Trustpilot. Lars used to be the CPO. I used to be a head of marketing. So Ole kind of, okay, I'm taking the technology. I was like, okay, if I'm taking the commercial things, and Lars was just, okay, I guess I take everything else. What I then learned is that like along the way from going from pre-seed to seed to Series A is that like I can sell Dreamdata, but I'm not a sales leader. I don't understand how to run the processes. I've gained massive amounts of respect for the craft of actually selling, qualification frameworks, structuring sales teams, running pipelines, sometimes whipping, sometimes carrot, all those things. I can just sense I can't feel a passion for it. But whenever we're talking marketing tactics, like we're talking here, I'm constantly interested in learning more. I'm constantly trying to figure out what's working. So I think I've learned along the path of beginning Dreamdata is that I'm a marketer by heart. That's where my passion is, and I'm good. I can sell our own product one-on-one, but I'm not passionate about running a sales team. So I think that's the short story about it.
Yeah, makes sense. How do you think forward facing? I mean, first of all, I guess definitely what I see and what I hear in conversations that the MarTech space, the go-to-market tech space is getting more and more crowded, more solutions popping up, attribution being one of those areas, but also others. Obviously, there's the whole vibe coding and people spinning up little tools on their own quickly. How do you think about future facing, how to sustain a moat, how to build a moat, how to keep winning in a world where there's more and more competition? How do you think about it?
Whew, that's a tough one, Finn. I guess one of the first things that I see happening, or which has been happening the last 6-12 months, is that AI rules out the validity of doing generic stuff during average level stuff, because everybody has access to the same LLMs and they spit out generic stuff.
You mean like generic SEO optimized blog posts?
Yeah, anything content related that does generic. So you cannot, if you want to break through the noise nowadays, you really, really need to think a lot about your positioning, who you're for, what your product does, what does the landscape look like, how exactly do we express what we do compared to how our competitors think about it. Content, I think we've seen, like in Q1 we released this LinkedIn benchmark report. I think it's a good example of what it takes to stand out in marketing, that we built this benchmark report on our own proprietary data built from like hundreds of B2B companies' customer journeys and how LinkedIn is part of that. This is data that no other company in the world has, because this is our customers. And then, it took a data scientist to sit and generalize the data, and us in marketing to try to look for the stories, and then also trying to visualize it so other people will understand this story. And then when we put these things out on LinkedIn, people jump on them immediately because, as you said before, this is truly unique content that we've developed that you couldn't get anywhere else. And those things are getting really sucked up nowadays, where if you do like a random post about, hey, this is how we drive growth or revenue, and doesn't really get into the details of what's happening, then people will just completely ignore you.
Which kind of comes back to the kind of 7 out of 10, 10 out of 10 insightful content. The AI can within seconds spin up, I don't know, 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10
Yeah.
pretty good average looking content. So that's not gonna.
I hope another thing we'll see is that the importance of being human, the importance of physical presence or physical evidence, at least, that like you and I sit and talk together. You can see me on a video. I'm a real human being. I make mistakes. I do different stuff. And then there's others who just sit and hide behind like text-based posts.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will get ignored over time because people don't trust that it's just not an AI that sits and spit out content on their behalf.
Mm.
It might also be communities where they're gated from bots. So these are only like human verified communities. Or, in the fall, we hosted trying as part of our product launch, we rented out a cinema and watched Gladiator 2 together with our customers and prospects and friends, and gave like a 5-10 minute presentation of this new feature. But everybody in the room there met each other, mingle, and all of that was facilitated by us and a complete non-AI experience. So I hope that the return of humans will come at some point. But I don't know, it's hard, and it's almost like nowadays with AI, you both need high volume and high quality to have a chance of winning.
If you think about your marketing budget, your marketing activities as a portfolio where you're allocating resources to different programs, activities, etc., what are, number one, some of the validated working things that are just a large driver of your growth that you keep doubling down on or keep investing? And then two, what are some of the bets maybe that you're running right now where it's not yet verified that it's working, but you're putting some allocation there to try new things?
Yeah, I think just for context, we're how many? I think we were like 6 people in marketing or something like that at Dreamdata. So it's a very scarce team compared to what we need to achieve. So that's one. That also means that, for example, LinkedIn ads is a big part of our budget, because with LinkedIn ads, I can run matched audiences, and I can target accounts within these. I can target people within these matched audiences. So I have a great opportunity to do some always-on marketing towards our ICP. So that's like, and then if that runs, I know our awareness is constantly kept at a good level within our ICP. Then I need to make sure that the LinkedIn algorithm, or LinkedIn ads algorithm, also does a good distribution of our ads amongst these accounts. And something we've found great success with has been to turn the organic proven successes into opening posts for a cold layer or cold accounts. So we write content organically, and the organic validation basically tells us this is going to be a good asset if we put it in front of cold accounts as well.
Yes.
So having this engine of like a successful team effort in terms of posting organically has really helped us open up a lot of accounts.
And is that a thought leader ad? So you're literally
that's thought leader ads.
Yeah,
that's thought leader ads. We have also tried. Back in the day, we used to do a lot of memes because they would just blow up as well. And some of those I just posted from Dreamdata as a meme, but I think across the board, most people will tell you that the thought leader ads by people perform a lot better than company accounts.
And then for those ads, both for the kind of cold thought leader ads, repurposing some of the best performing organic posts, and then also I'm assuming the retargeting layer.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, kind of, that you have like a base level awareness with your ICPs because you can get granular with the targeting. Do you look at conversion data there? Like, do you look at how many demos did people book after clicking on the ad, or do you not care, knowing that we're just in front of the right people and we're building some base noise and that's good enough, let's say? Or how do you think about it?
I would be the first to admit that we probably don't spend enough time on the ads because we're just too small a team to have a specialist studying LinkedIn ads. Something that I've been speaking with my LinkedIn agency that helps me out has been to have a focus on making sure that every thought leader ad also have a post underneath that has a link to your domain, so that link to your website becomes stronger. The thing, you know this, Finn, that you can sponsor a post that doesn't contain any links at all.
Yep.
That makes you hit top of mind with your customers, but the path from an impression to revenue is quite long.
Yeah.
So by like making sure that that post that you do sponsor contains links to your website takes people like that extra step closer to conversions than what they used to do.
Yep.
But yeah, LinkedIn being Dreamdata being a LinkedIn marketing partner, we actually get account level data out of LinkedIn's API, so we can see all these thought leader posts up on journeys, and that's what kind of gives me the confidence that running this tactic makes a lot of sense. So it's not, I don't have to be old school conversion focused of submit this form, because the ads API tells us on this day Finn's post got served in front of this account.
Yep. Love it. So you would say the LinkedIn ads plus the LinkedIn organic is your biggest kind of workhorse, let's say, when it comes to...
Yeah, and maybe just to those that don't know our go-to-market that well, inside of LinkedIn, we also have a weekly LinkedIn live show, which we're calling a show nowadays, which we're quite proud of. And I think we have a very integrated way of bringing this into like our broader go-to-market. So we run a weekly LinkedIn live show. We get guests that are relevant for our ICP, which is B2B marketers. Like I had April Dunford last week, and she has 80,000 followers.
Yep.
We had more than 500 signups to that event. The event is not gated, but what we do after the event is that we take all the people who clicked attend, make a simple sheet, upload this sheet to Dreamdata, and then we can see on this day, Finn participated in this webinar that was called XYZ. And then that get into your customer journey on LinkedIn. We have then also built you can call our all-bound pipeline in our CRM that is based on your ICP fit and an engagement score generated by Dreamdata. So by attending the live, you get into Dreamdata and you get back into the sales team saying that now there's actually an engagement here and you know exactly what webinar they took part of. So make sure you consider this as you kind of do your outreach to these people.
And you score them, so someone who might have attended 2 webinars and clicked on 3 ads gets served higher than someone who just attended 1 webinar, I assume?
Yeah, like there's a threshold in terms of engagement rate, and so our salespeople never do anything ice cold. They only act signal based. So only act on.
What do you think is the right threshold? Because I've thought about this question, and obviously there's no right answer, but I'm curious what you think kind of might make sense as a threshold.
Yeah, we're actually releasing an AI signals product in Dreamdata this month, where kind of the AI will tell you exactly when to reach out. But I would say kind of attending a live is by no degree a hand raise to say, I want to buy your product.
Yes.
It's I would wait until you see people coming to your website, you see people checking out pricing, maybe comparing you on G2 with other vendors, etc. I think it's fine enough to use that engagement that you participated in this April Dunford live to say, hey, cool, I just saw you participated in the live, and then leave it at that and see whether they reply.
Yep.
I think, it's all about, and I think it's about matching the engagement with the messaging that you put out.
Yep.
If they're not doing research for buying, stop talking about selling to them, and serve them some relevant comments that has something to do where they are at the moment instead.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and I think again that's where having a founder or CEO brand, having it as a strategic asset. I don't know if you guys do this, but one of the things that we do is if you get such a signal and you have an ICP that visits your website or that attends your webinar or does anything, at least send a connection request through your CEOs or founders LinkedIn profile. And now it's almost like a drip sequence, right? Now they're connected. Now they start seeing your posts every now and then. You stay top of mind. And it's such a low hanging fruit to keep these people in
it's
your
like
ecosystem.
You read our playbook, Finn. I also get connected to all the ICPs that click attend. So the next time we do an event, maybe they see it and sign up again.
Cool. Love it. All right, Steffen, we're at time here. Thank you so much for all your insights. I think there were lots of very tactical and specific nuggets in here. Before, obviously, if people want to check either you out or check out Dreamdata, we'll have links in the show notes. Any closing remarks, anything that you wish we talked about that we didn't talk about, anything I should have asked you that I didn't?
I'll let that remain lingering into the future, but happy to come back in a year, Finn, and evaluate whether it was good stuff that I shared today or not.
I love it. Cool. Thank you so much for coming.
I really appreciate it, Finn.